Please welcome to the stage Manmeet Kaur Chowdhry.
Raise your hand if you've ever tried to, or still do, change other people, be it your colleagues or your loved ones. Raise your hand. And raise your hand if you quickly realized that that was a complete waste of time. Raise your hand. Let me explain to you why. You see, there is something that every single individual has, which is a hierarchy of priorities. Now, priorities are sometimes also referred to as values, but I prefer to use priorities. Why? Because if I was to ask you, what are your values in life? You'd probably say answers like loyalty, you'd probably say things like, honesty, integrity, any of those kind of answers. But if I was to say, what are your priorities in life? You may turn around and say, well, I have a high priority on my family. I have a priority on my health and fitness. I have a priority on my business. And those are the kind of things that I'm talking about here. By priorities, I simply mean, what do you value most in your life? Now, what happens is, over time, we start to think our own individual priorities are way more important than anybody else's. And we start to project onto other people. And we start to tell them what we think they should do. And we try and change them relative to us. And that's what I call a careless relationship. When you care less about other people's priorities and the whole focus is on yours. The other spectrum is actually where we think other individuals' priorities are way more important than us, and we sacrifice ourselves and we start to inject their priorities into our life. And that's what I call careful, because what we're doing is we're walking on eggshells trying to change ourselves to be more relative to the other individuals. The relationship that I would call is an optimum relationship, where we see each other's priorities are being met. And there is a full exchange, which I call a caring relationship. My priorities are being met as well as yours. And in that is what you create a caring relationship. My name is Manmeet Kaur Chowdhry, and for the last decade, I have been studying, implementing, and teaching and coaching individuals how to live a more optimum life through creating and having inspiring relationships, be it personal, professional, or that most important one, with yourself. You see, when we think about these careless and careful relationships, I was doing a lot of them back in the day when I would project onto other people what they should be doing and trying to be like me. And there were lots of times that I thought other people were way more successful than me and inject their priorities into my life and trying to change myself to be like them. You see, in February 2008, you would found me sitting in my living room in my family home. Now, my family home is where I've lived all my life with my mum and dad. And it's this beautiful 3-bed semi-detached house. And it's in Edgware in a cul-de-sac area with a nice little green. It's actually called Berridge Green. It's the green that I tried to play a lot of football and tried to play a lot of cricket, but I didn't fit in with the boys on the green, you know. So I'm sitting there. I'm sitting in my living room, and on the left side of me, there are these big white sofas. The sun is shining bright outside. And on the right side of me, there is this cabinet, which has the family photos. And then in like every Indian household, all the crockery and all the extra dishes that your mum buys that doesn't fit in the kitchen goes in those living room cabinets. That's all in there too. And there's nobody else home but me. And one other. And there he is, with this long, soft white beard, this yellow turban, and these soft yellow robes, and his hand coming towards me to bless me. you know, I feel like you're really here with me and I'm not feeling very blessed at all. They call you God. I'm meant to thank you for everything that's going great for me. Well, I'm coming to you to complain, to let you know that everything that I actually want in my life is non-existent. I don't know why you're looking at me like that. I have no sympathy for what you're giving me in my life. I don't understand. Out of 7 billion people, you've chosen me, to give this life to. What am I meant to do with this? I know. I think the only answer, is that what you want me to do? End it? Hello? Yeah, Dizzy, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. Oh, not another personal development seminar, please. No, I just don't want to go, Diz. Oh, you've already bought the tickets for me and Vinny. Okay. Yeah, of course I trust you. Yeah, all right, I'll be there. Has there ever been a time in your life when you felt like there was challenge after challenge after challenge, and you kept putting a brave face on, letting the world know that you were okay, but you actually felt like you have been dealt the wrong cards in life? You see, that's how I felt, and the next few months was just like that. I put on this show, letting everybody know that I was doing absolutely fine, but inside, I was really dying. I did end up at the event with my friend Vinny, and it was with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Demartini. And when I was going there, I tell you, I was kicking and screaming, saying, I don't want to go, and Vinny was just saying, come on, we'll go, we've been recommended to go, let's go. And as I was sitting there with this room, you know, full of 300 people, a very, very posh hotel in London, you know, these like draped curtains on either side, red velvet, I remember it very clearly, seemed really posh, and I felt a little out of place actually. And this man walked on, and it was Dr. Demartini, but this style was just too funny. He had curtains, he had this navy blue suit, it was like a politician that came on stage. And he came on. How many of you in this room are into positive thinking? And how many of you still have negative thoughts? Oh, all of you then. How about this one? How many of you have tried to live a life of a fantasy which is one-sided, and when it doesn't happen, you blame God and other people? Gosh, those words as they left his mouth and touched my ears felt like he was talking directly to me. Actually, in that moment, I thought I'd been dealt a royal flush, thinking, what's going on here? This is all for me. I sat back and I listened, but before I listened, I was sitting there already with my arms crossed, my legs crossed, and even my eyebrows managed to get crossed because I was so cynical about what was happening. But as those words came and I heard them, I just really sat back, opened up, and I listened. You see, in my hand that I'd been dealt by the universe, Dr. Demartini that evening was my hidden ace. He changed my life in 2 hours, which made me want to explore. It wanted me to stay here on the planet and actually find out, what is all this human behavior about? What makes us tick? Why do we act in certain ways? And so I continued my journey for the next 4 or 5 years with him. And I learnt and I completely immersed myself into his teachings that had had a background of 45 odd years of research, of cross-disciplinary. And I immersed myself, and don't get me wrong, there were things that were difficult to understand. There were words I didn't even know the meaning of. And I felt like at times I was the dumbest person in class. It was like I was doing another complete degree. But it was worth it, and I pushed through, and I continued to plow through, thinking, how can I understand this much better? How can I implement it into my life? And bear in mind that secret and most powerful word, implement. I did implement what I learned. And then came another challenging hand, just like poker. In 2015, I decided I wanted to leave work. But I went against other people's wishes, like my boss, who really wanted me to stay there, of course. My friends, who said, don't do that. And you're such a high-paid job. And then, of course, bless her soul, my mum. Manmeet, what are you doing? What is this coaching? I don't know what to tell anybody what you're doing. It's not a normal job. Bless her soul. And then, of course, the self-doubts came. Did I know enough? Could I really do this? But things slowly started to change. I did leave my job and I started my own business, and it was the coaching and training company that brought me clients. And as I started working with these clients, I had some really inspiring testimonials, which then went on to further recommendations. I even got recognized in 2019 as Superwoman for my contribution to the personal development industry. And now I am the only Senior Demartini method facilitator in Europe, and I love nothing more than to help my clients learn and, most importantly, implement the Live Your Optimum Life plan. One of the key things that my clients learn and implement is what I've mentioned earlier today, which is the priorities. Now, the priority side of things is so important because really it's the crux of all human behavior. And what's happening is that we are being operated by these priorities unconsciously, sometimes consciously, which I do get people to understand, but before that it's really unconsciously. And I call it your GPS because it's navigating you, and as I said, it's the master key to understanding yourself and also other individuals. 3 things that we have control over in our life is our perceptions, our decisions, and our actions. Well, guess what? All 3 of these go right back to our GPS, our Genius Priority System. Let me tell you why. So when we're looking at perceptions, well, if you have a priority on family and somebody walking along the street tells you, you've got your baby in a pram and tells you what an amazing, beautiful baby you have, your perception of that individual is you will label them good, you'll open up to them, you'll want to sit around and have a coffee and chat with them a little bit more. But if that same individual said, what have you created there? What kind of a response are you going to have? Your perception of them is going to be, this individual is a bad individual. You'll label them that way. And therefore, your perceptions all go back to your hierarchy of priorities. And remember I said your priorities are in a hierarchy of what's most important right down to what's least important. So now your decisions even are also made on this priority system. Because you see, we're all operating on what I love to call one radio station. And no, it's not Kiss FM, it's WIIFM. And that is what's in it for me. And that what's in it for me is all about your priorities. What's in it for me is, am I saying yes to something that's going to serve me in my priorities? Or am I going to say no because it doesn't? So again, it's coming back to your priorities when you're making those decisions. And we will always, ladies and gents, we will always make decisions based on what we see will give us greater advantage over disadvantage to our priorities. And then we have action. You see, everything that we have in our hierarchy of priorities, most important, right down to least important, in the things that are most important to us, we are going to be inspired from within to take action on. We're not going to need reminding, but when we're doing things that are low priority, we need outside motivation. For those of you who are in relationships, for those of you who are in work, know what I'm talking about when I say that somebody has to remind you to do certain tasks. I know when I've been in previous relationships, I've needed to have external motivation to cook. But to turn up to do workshops and do my one-to-ones, I haven't needed that motivation. I've been inspired from within. There are things like that in your life that you don't need reminding to do, and that's where you're taking action. You see, as I said, your perceptions, decisions, and actions, the three things that you have control over, all go back to your priority system. Well, if the three things that you control are all to do with priorities and your priority system, wouldn't it be wise to actually understand what these priorities are? Because you see, the Greeks really understood how important this was, and they created a whole study out of it called teleology, which is all about your end in mind. So you see, they understood the importance of it, and I'm trying to bring it to you guys so that you can understand how important this is, because really and truly, to understand yourself and other individuals is very important to understand your priority system. If you'd like to know more about how you can learn about your priorities and how they actually dictate your life, click the link below and you can find my information there. And on concluding this talk, I'd love to leave you with this final thought. Everybody wants to be loved and appreciated for who they are. And who they are is an expression of their priorities. Don't put people in pits by projecting your priorities onto them. Don't put them on pedestals and inject their priorities into your life. Put them in your heart and see them as equal to you. Thank you.